Hello there, and welcome to another Starfield video. So, we got some news recently about Starfield, and by recently I mean like, I believe yesterday? So basically, Todd Howard, or God Howard as he is known in some circles, definitely not my circle, because I definitely don't have a shrine to him in my bedroom. He was on a podcast with MrmattyPlays, who... quite a prominent kind of Bethesda YouTuber. I'm a fan of him, fan of his work. He makes good content. But basically, Todd was talking about various things, and I recommend going and checking the entire podcast. It's a good listen. They talk about not just Starfield stuff, but there's a couple of things they talk about Starfield that I just wanted to kind of go over. So there'll be a link to the podcast in the description. But yeah, so... it's broken down in the video. It's broken down to two parts. They talk about Starfield, and it kind of drifts off into the creations. So one of the first things they talk about is that they're going to be the 6-week updates that they had initially kind of promised us are going to be phased out. Todd himself says that he doesn't see it as beneficial to the development of the game, and he referenced that if we have a larger update, or if they have a larger update in the work, they need more time, and it'd just be a kind of a situation where they don't like kind of putting a specific timeline on updates. So basically what we gather from that is that the updates, the 6-week updates, aren't going to be happening. They're still going to be doing updates, but it's going to kind of come at a when we're ready sort of basis, which has some kind of pros and some cons. Obviously the biggest kind of con is that we don't have a kind of a set time frame to expect content, but obviously the kind of the pros to it is that the developers aren't under a specific constraint, which means that they can focus more on getting things done. Kind of one of the issues you may notice with a couple of the kind of the big May updates and stuff, like for instance the Creation Kit update that came out in June, was that it came out a bit half-cooked. There was some issues with bugs, especially on console, or I say console, but Xbox. Sadly, PlayStation users, you can't play Starfield. Hopefully one day. But yeah, so they had to like kind of release a bug fix a couple of days later. So yeah, I mean, I'm happy in one way, because it's nice to kind of know, that he addresses it. They didn't really have to address it. They could have just kind of kept it going and be like, oh yeah, updates will come when they come, but it kind of shows that they're going to get ahead of it, which makes me think that realistically, we probably won't be getting a July update, like a kind of a, I think... hopefully might mean that we'll get something in August, like maybe like a month before the expansion, which would be pretty hype. We don't really know how the rovers are going to function. We'll talk about it a little bit in a minute, because the rovers were mentioned and stuff. But one of the other things they talked about was Shattered Space and how it's going to kind of work. So Shattered Space, the DLC or the expansion, is going to be self-contained, akin to Far Harbor. You basically go somewhere and you kind of do your quests and your missions and your exploration in this specific area. So because it all kind of is going to take place in a specific area, it's going to be separate from the main game. Now, obviously, some people might think like, oh, that's a bit, finicky. But I personally see it as a major boon. Because there's a couple of reasons to why. One of the first reasons is with development. You don't want to have a kind of like things seeping out, for instance. Like having everything self-contained on one planet or one world means that you don't have to worry about outside interference. Like if you had a mission where, like from the expansion, you gotta go to Earth, gotta go to Mars, gotta go here, there. There's just... because there's an overlap, there'd be more likely things to go wrong and bugs to fix. And when things do go wrong, you're going to have to look at not just the expansions kind of code, you're going to have to look at the base game code. So that's obviously going to be pretty big. Another thing with the kind of it being self-contained is that, and I feel like this is going to be good, they're going to be focusing on one planet specifically, which I'm hoping, because currently in-game, we have a couple of planets that have like various POIs that are kind of scattered, but they're kind of more kind of procedurally generated. Like the only kind of planet which has like multiple POIs that aren't procedurally generated I can think of is Mars, where it has like the NASA landing pad and the TMD and stuff, and obviously Cydonia. So the fact that it's one planet means that hopefully Bethesda will kind of hand create different areas, which I think would be amazing. Like, one of the things I noticed when I kind of was exploring in my Leapfrog series, where I try to beat the game without using the same ship twice. Bit of a plug there. Check it out. I'm also streaming it now instead of just kind of recording it and talking to myself. But I noticed that like places like say New Atlantis and like Aquila City, kind of areas where the main cities are based, the worlds are clearly more handcrafted and less procedurally generated. So, you know, that's another big boon from it being self-contained. Plus, when Todd Howard mentions Far Harbor, and I think obviously he did it for a couple of reasons. He mentioned it because I would like to assume, and this is obviously my personal opinion, but also I feel like it's the general consensus. Far Harbor was probably one of the best Fallout. Definitely one of the best Fallout 4 expansions. Probably one of the best Fallout expansions. I probably even wager that it's probably one of the best expansions Bethesda have done with their mainline games. I know that's a shocker. That's a big shocker. I definitely put it up there with Shivering Isles for Oblivion, and I don't think it, like Dragonborn was fun, but I don't think it kind of caters. Point Lookout, maybe. Obviously Point Lookout wasn't a expansion. It was kind of short, but I just like the kind of the swamp people kind of I just imagine that's what like Michael would be like. The Warhammer is in the Fallout universe. Just like lives in like a shack in the swamps, like a shotgun, like, get off my land, varmint. I don't know. That was a really bad impression. Anyway, but yeah. So they also one of the things they also talked about was Todd, Mr. Howard, is that they want to do yearly expansions for as long as they can. They're currently working on the next expansion after Starfield, and this is exciting for two reasons. The first reason, they have intentions on what to do next. Now, they talked about how they kind of... So the whole kind of purpose behind the expansion of Shared Space is to tell a specific story. And each kind of expansion, Mr. Matty asked Todd, like, is each expansion or yearly expansion, is it going to be kind of telling a specific story? And Todd kind of like, he kind of danced around it, and like he gave a kind of an answer in a way. He said like that there is obviously the potential to do that, but they're not going to like necessarily, you know, like kind of go the route of, okay, the next story is going to be about the Freestar Collective, the next story is about this, like, which as somebody who like a Destiny player, I'm very happy about that, because it's cool kind of adding these new narratives, but you start to add too many narratives, it gets to a point where like, okay, when are we going to find out about, you know, how this ends? Like, for instance, the dwarves. What the hell happened to where's the dwarves, Todd? Tell us what happened to the Dwemer. And obviously when they were talking about like they're going to try and do it as long as they can, which I mean is hype. Let's be real, that is massive hype. To my knowledge, I don't know of a game that's kind of like a single player game that's been updated like on a basis that's longer than maybe two years. I know with most Bethesda titles, it's usually they'll kind of like keep bringing out updates and like DLC and stuff to about a year after launch, and then they kind of focus on the next thing. So I think it'd be cool if Starfield was kind of one of the first big story games where they kept it going. Like, it would be absolutely amazing if they kind of went, and I know I reference Destiny a lot, and it's just because Destiny's a game I've kind of played a lot of, and it just kind of, it's similarities, and not in that, you know, obviously they're very different games, but it'd be, Destiny does like these narrative events where the narrative of the story changes as the game progresses. And obviously, you know, with the Shattered Space expansion, we know that it's going to be self-contained, but that doesn't mean that it can't have overarching kind of consequences to the storyline of the game. You know, so hopefully in like, imagine like 2-3 years time, we've gotten 3 new expansions out, and like the game is completely changed from what it was originally. Now, really quickly on the topic of new gameplay features in the rover. So Mr. Matty referenced the rover, and Todd was like, yeah, this is going to be, you know, cool thing coming. And then he asked, is there going to be any other like big gameplay kind of changes that completely change, like the gameplay? That's, and he kind of danced around it. He said that again, see, the thing is, with it, Todd, is obviously he's been in the game for so long. He's anything he mentions, it's something that's been kind of vetted beforehand by, like the development, like the kind of the higher, level development stuff. So I don't think he'd intentionally spoil or unintentionally spoil something that he shouldn't. But he basically said that if there is a chance, they're going to do it, but they're not going to focus on it. They're not going to have every expansion something brand new. Now, this goes back to the fact that House Faroon's expansion is basically... Oh, ignore that, sorry. The fact that House Faroon's kind of expansion is self-contained on a specific world, and from what we've seen from the trailer and stuff and the teaser, I feel like a lot of exploration will happen on foot, which makes me think that the rover we're going to be getting is probably going to come in an update, like a kind of a free update, as opposed to like, being part of the Shattered Space expansion, which would make sense. Like, I feel like if they were going the route of like the rover, they would have kind of showed it. Now, I may be misremembering, so if they do actually show the rover in the teaser, let me know, but I don't think they did. But yeah, so that's just kind of something to look forward to. So another thing they talked about, this is when they started kind of going about the creator kind of side of things and the creation kit. So console mod storage went from 4 gigs from Fallout 4 and Skyrim, I believe. One was 4, one was 2, to 100 gigs, which is absolutely colossal on console. Like 100 gigs worth of mods. Like, the base game itself is, I don't know off by heart, but I want to say the base game is probably around that. So the fact that 100 gigs of, like, that's insane. Like, we give it like a couple of months when the kind of the overhaul mods come out. I seen someone mentioned a mod that adds 120 FPS to the Series X and the Series S as a mod, which is phenomenal. Like, if 60 FPS mods, I remember that was the thing that Fallout 4 got before it got 60 FPS on the kind of the 1X. So yeah, just the fact that we have more mods like in a year's time, there's going to be people playing on console where their game's going to look so different, and you're going to be like, what is your PC specs? And it's like, I'm on console, I'm on Xbox. No. I got my built-in, what does Xbox have? I think it is like 12 gigs of RAM, I think. And then another thing they talk about is with paid mods, like paid mods by Bethesda are priced similar to other stuff they've done, like in Fallout 76 and Fallout 4. So basically, with that being said, they're still kind of adjusting the pricing of things as it kind of comes and goes, which makes sense. I mean, I think the one thing that hopefully they kind of realize, and they have said that they're listening to all the feedback, and we'll talk about the Vulture Pack in a minute, but hopefully they kind of realize that like Fallout 76 is kind of like the way it does, it's kind of like kind of, what would you say, your microtransaction stores type thing. Like, it's a completely different game. Like Fallout 76 these days, it's kind of like a free-to-play game, even though it's not really. You still pay for it, but it has like that, the battle pass and the atom store and stuff. Not to mention, you could earn atoms, and you can earn atoms in game, which is another kind of big thing. So that's kind of why, like, usually when you allow the player to earn specific in-game currency, you can afford to price the items higher because, you can technically achieve whatever if you just play long enough. So hopefully they realize that, and like they kind of go back and they like, look at the pricing. Now, regarding the pricing of like creators, because they talked about like modders and stuff, that was one of the things they mentioned, and like that's pricing is kind of going to stay where it is, which is perfectly acceptable. Like Todd mentioned, like that a lot of these creators, like they kind of went from being kind of, you know, hobbyists, like passionate hobby modders, to like a lot of them are able to basically, like, it's a full-time thing for them. And that's kind of what Bethesda wanted to do with the kind of the paid mods for these content creators, these modders. And they want to be able to basically give them revenue so that they can basically make money. Now, I'm not sure how much Bethesda take as a cut, but just going off of what Todd said, I'd be surprised if the cut is very low. And again, I don't think, with regards to like a lot of the stuff, I don't think anybody would really have had an issue with like the kind of the mods for the kind of the individual kind of, you know, the creator mods, like say like Eleonora's kind of ship mod, the ship mod hab mods, or the deluxe boost pack. Now obviously there probably will come a modder who might, I don't really know, like, obviously I don't know, but there probably will come a modder that will try and kind of nickel and dime us, and you know, that's the case. But each paid mod by specific verified creators, not talking about Bethesda here, like Eleonora or Trainwiz is another one. I don't think he's done a mod yet, but like they're all individual people and they have individual kind of, you know, ideas and stuff. So that's something to kind of take in. Just because Eleonora sells a kind of a hab pack for 500 doesn't mean that if Trainwiz does a hab pack, it has to also be 500. But I would assume that they, you know, the point I'm trying to make here is that, yeah, basically paid mods are like a completely different thing, the non-Bethesda paid mods. Now, they talked about the Vulture Pack and basically how originally it was meant to be a weapon and clothes pack, that they decided to kind of, you know, put it in a little bundle, kind of make it a bit better with a mission. And they have seen the feedback, and they will be evaluating in future what they kind of put in, like what sort of like stuff, be it free content or paid content. Now, hopefully, like, obviously, you know, like, fair play to MrmattyPlays. He was like straight with it, like, you know, didn't beat around the bush about like the general consensus that people didn't like the pricing of certain items. The Vulture Pack was probably one of the most egregious because it was a story mission, a pretty short story mission. And going by what we've kind of heard from Todd, like how the story mission was kind of like, it was kind of added on at the end to kind of like a nice little bow. If it was priced lower, I think people would have been fine with it. But again, it's that whole thing of it. See, this is the thing, is obviously I'm not going to talk too much about it because I've talked about it enough with it. But like, when it comes to paid mods and stuff, generally it's always going to be a topic of debate or topic of talk, just because some people are fine with paying for certain things, some people aren't. But anyway, but the point being said is that Bethesda are aware of kind of the Vulture Pack, and hopefully going forward, that when it comes to story related packs like that, they'll either charge them or put them as part of a DLC or make them free. Like, I don't mind, like, the thing is, like, anything that doesn't kind of, like, you know, like, say for instance, like the hab pack, like the Mariner hab pack, it's 1,000 credits. My opinion, I think it's a little bit too expensive. That's just me, you know. I'm still going to review and stuff because, you know, console or creator, you know. But despite me thinking that's too expensive, it adds nothing to the gameplay. It's completely cosmetic, you know. Same with the plushies. Again, I think the plushies, personally, I think they're kind of stupid. In that, not that they're stupid themselves, but in that I don't think you should be charging that for them. I think they should be in the base game. But again, they don't add anything to the story. They're completely cosmetic. So, you know, you want to charge for them, fair enough, Bethesda. But any sort of content like that has a storyline, again, that's where I kind of draw the line personally. I think if you're going to do that, have it as like an actual like expansion, like, or DLC, where, like, you know, the player is actually going to get their money's worth. And like, keep it separate from the store personally, because the thing is with these kind of stores is when you have to kind of convert your money into in-game currency, there's a whole psychological side to it. You know, I'm not going to go into the kind of the brass tacks of it all or the whole lot, but the kind of the gist of it is basically they've gotten your money and you're just kind of like, you know, you're buying stuff with it, and like the way they price certain things, and it's not just Bethesda, a lot of companies will do it. But I think that, yeah, going forward with story related content like the Vulture Pack sort of stuff, either make it free or make it an actual paid pack. Like, I wouldn't mind paying a tenner if it consisted of multiple missions and it was on the Xbox store or the Steam store, whatever. It was straight, give us €10 or 52 Australian dollar dues, and you know, we'll go with it. That would have been perfectly acceptable. But yeah, anyway, that's pretty much it. Like I said, really good, lot of stuff they've been, which I will say I like it. I like that they're kind of talking about it like as kind of games evolve. Like, you go back, like, look at a Fallout 4 or, like, Skyrim. Like, obviously, they talked about the games and stuff, but where they chose to talk about the games kind of varied. You know, like, it was usually interviews or, like, interviews from specific game journalists like IGN or, like, GameSpot, places like that. And now, kind of with how social media has kind of become more kind of, you know, prominent and stuff, like, they're kind of talking more, and it's really cool. Like, we've gotten a lot of insight from Bethesda from their own stuff when they do the May, you know, the update videos. They did the May one, the June one, and obviously from when Todd, you know, goes on podcasts and stuff, which is really awesome. So it's all, and it's not just Bethesda. Like, a lot of games companies are doing this these days, and it's great as a fan, because like, you kind of can, you know, you see what way they're building the game, and then you can kind of, you know, you can be like, okay, I like what they're doing. I'm going to invest more time into, say, like Starfield. Or you may hear what they're saying, and be like, I don't really like what they're doing. I'm going to kind of, you know, pull back some of my time on Starfield and maybe focus on a different game, or, you know, just, you know, and again, it's in the long run, it is really good, and I think it's healthy for the game and the community as a whole when there is that communication between the developers and the player. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me know what you guys think about this. I'm generally quite happy. I'm excited to, obviously, you know, we probably won't be getting an update in July, which I don't mind, but hopefully we might get the rover before Shattered Space. And yeah, as always, guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you like this sort of content, and catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.